Hey, this is the McGuire. Whoa, stop. I hate to interrupt this program, but we do have to make a special announcement. We have partnered once again with Osprey Games. Guess what? We're going to do a free giveaway of this game, Escape from Colditz. Watch the video to make sure you pick up on the details for the contest on this one. Woo! Hey, this is the McGuire Review, and today we're going to be taking a look at Escape from Colditz. This is a brand new one from Osprey Games. It is a 2 to 6 player, 90 to 150 minutes, and a 14 plus. Now, I'll tell you, this one I'm extremely excited about getting into. There's been a lot of people that have been waiting for this game for a long time. And the reason is because this one is really special. It is based on real events from World War II. It's got a ton of history wrapped into this box. So let me kind of paint the picture for you a little bit. The Colditz Castle was a German, somewhat of a prison for POW prisoners from World War II. Germans had claimed that this prison, this castle, was unescapable. It was no way to escape this place. And there was only about a handful of people that actually were able to escape, and one of them was Major Pat Reid. So, this game was actually designed on his experiences as he was here and what he saw and how he escaped. So, he sat down with some original game designers, and this was back in the 70s. Parker Brothers originally came out with this game. And they did a BBC TV series, and then they did this game. And now Osprey Games is coming back and doing a reprint of it. They did update, obviously, the artwork and the components. They did a fantastic job with that. We're going to get into this box and do a little bit of an unboxing before we get into gameplay, because they did such a great job with the packaging on this. I mean, it really feels like something special when you get this lid off. When you think through Pat's experiences, when you think through the history that's built into this and the realism and the nostalgia, it almost gives you goosebumps when you're playing the game. So this one is a really special one, and I really highly suggest you guys get out there and pick this up when it hits on October the 18th. So let's go ahead and get it out of the box. And you got right here on the front of the box, I forgot to mention this, it's got Major Pat Reid's signature right here on it. I mean, that's not specially signed. It's on every box, but I thought that was pretty cool that they actually put his autograph there on the box. I will say right off the bat, the box is a very, very thick cardboard. Now, Osprey Games is known for having some thicker cardboard on some of their newer games. This one is extremely thick. You got a little bit of artwork around the sides there. This is the main board here. And I like how they did this printing of Escape from Colditz in gold on the back side of the board, which generally would just be blank. But they did that nice printing there to make it look really nice as it just kind of lays in the box. So we'll set this aside. I'll open that board here in a second because it's a fairly large board. And then what we're going to see is two manuals. One of them is the rules manual here that you'll find, and the other manual that they included here was actually a history on the Colditz Castle, which I thought was really interesting that they included. And it's a pretty decent amount of content. I mean, you've got about 30 pages of some artwork in there with some color, and it's all the different stories that people would have in their encounter with the Colditz POW prison. So there's some stories from people that actually were there. There's some of the escape stories. There's multiple tunnels that people built and designed, some of which had full-scale electrical lighting and pulley systems to move the dirt from point A to point B, because they were trying to architect their way out of this place by tunneling and digging under walls. So that content's here. It's a really, really fun read. So I highly suggest, if you pick up the game, take some time and read through this, and read this before you play the game. It adds a lot of flavor to when you're playing the game and you're looking at certain locations on this board. It's like we're actually in the church. This is where they had one of the tunnels. So it adds a lot of nostalgia to the game. So the next thing is how they did the base part of the game here. And I really like how they packaged all the components. Very neat in each one of these boxes. And they added some really cool flair to it where, the cardboard boxes have some lettering, like it would look like a care pack from World War II. It's got the Red Cross symbol there on it. Prisoners' parcels, British Red Cross, and Order of St. John War Organization. So that's really, really cool. They kind of added that extra flavor to that packaging. And inside here, you're going to find pretty much all the main game components. You'll see here we've got a few different components. A card here that's used for gameplay. Here's our punch board. It's got a few different chits. Here's like a pamphlet that you would read. That's part of, give you a little extra flair on the game as well. And then you'll find they've got each one of the wooden, and these are wooden tokens. They're not plastic. They're actually wooden little tokens that you'll use as you play the game, and some dice. So that's what you're going to find here in this first box. And in the second box, you're going to find the opportunity cards. So they've got here in the red packaging your opportunity cards, and in your final third little package here, this contains the security cards, do or die cards, escape equipment, and escape kits. So everything's neatly packaged in the box, and I will show you because I popped this out just to see. If you pull out the insert here, they actually did another piece of artwork in the very bottom of the box that is a kind of a hand-drawn map of Colditz and all the different locations. You'll see there's a legend up here that indicates all the different locations of things. So I thought that was another really nice extra little touch to put inside the box of the game, which, they didn't have to. And some people may never see it because they may never pull that up out of there. But when I did, I was surprised to see that extra piece of artwork, and I thought that was really cool. Let me go ahead and open up the board here just to give you a feel for what this board looks like. And again, it is a good size board, as you can see. It's a 4-panel. And let's make sure I don't have it. Okay. So you'll see that it does resemble the original board with some updated artwork as well as color. And each one of the symbols that you'll find on the board, they really, see if I can get from out back behind this thing so you can hear me. On this board, it will indicate different areas by these colored circles. So, and that'd be indicated right there in the rule book for you. You'll know what each one of these colored circles mean, and each one of these icons mean. And that's going to play out when you're playing the game and you're trying to make your escape, whether you're moving around to different areas trying to gain, different escape aids like keys and ropes and shovels to be able to get out. That's all going to be indicated right here on the board for you, and there is a legend for that in the rule book. So this is the board. I mean, you can see it's epic in style, and I can't wait to get this on the table and get it all set up. Let's set it up. Oh, man. I love that video magic. My effects are awesome. So let's look at what we've got. We've got it out of the box now, and I chose to go and really start with a setup that we can kind of already see some of the gameplay in action and why certain pawns will be in certain areas of the board. So let's do a quick review of some of the components that we got out here in front of us and how they're going to work, and then we'll do a couple rounds here of what gameplay would look like, because the actual game turn and the round is fairly quick. So again, we have our rule book that we already took a look at, and this does include the reprinted rule set that Osprey Games has done here with this version. Again, all of that was run by the original game creator to ensure that nothing from a gameplay experience perspective or the historical events that this was based around with Pat Reid were changed in any way. But they did also include a version of the classic rules in here. So the very back of this rule book, they did include the classic rules from the Parker Brothers 1970s edition of this game. So if you do want to play that rule set, just for that, that feel from that printing, you can. Here's a few other things we saw that were included, and one of these was actually folded up and stuck into one of the card boxes, and I'll show you that here in a second. But these are the two that we saw when we opened the box. One of them is a postcard that is sent from one of the POWs. It looks like to his mom, and you can kind of read that. It's a pretty cool piece of history here. It is kind of difficult to read because the writing's very, very small. And they did that because they wanted all the writing to be able to fit right on the lines that were included. So that's kind of an interesting piece there. The other thing that we've got is a kind of a posting that was given to the prisoners that pretty much said the escape from prison camps is no longer a sport. And it was kind of around how there were certain zones now set up that you would be shot you'd be at gunpoint and be shot on sight if you were to enter any of these, forbidden areas. That's kind of what this is. It's more of kind of a posting that would have been put up for the POWs. And then this one here is all in German, so I'm not really sure what it says, but it does have pictures at the very bottom here, including Pat Reid, Major Pat Reid, which is right here. I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's a black and white printing, and it has, some of the major people that were there at that POW camp, and the rest of it is all in German. So if you do know what this says, you can post that in the comments. Otherwise, I can't really help you guys with that. But it is a cool little artifact that they included in the game. Let's now go over here and look at the cards that we've got included. You're going to have your equipment cards, and really this is just a deck that's going to stay face up, and it's got all the different equipments of the game. So you've got things like wire cutters, and you have things like ropes and keys. So there's just a few different types of pieces of equipment that you can get in the game, and you'll use those in various areas when you get to a certain spot to be able to pass that spot. So you may need a key to go through a door, or you may need a rope to climb down. And ropes are interesting. There's areas that indicate it's 30-foot drop or it's a 60-foot drop. Every rope gives you the capability of dropping or climbing 30 feet. So if it's a 60-foot drop or climb, you're going to need 2 ropes. So that's how those equipment cards are going to work. You're also going to have your basic personal escape kits. And this is a card that really just has one of quite a few different items on it. And you can gain those items by getting your POWs to certain rooms across the board. Those rooms will have the same items indicated right in the room. So for example, we've got the kitchen here, and it's got a picture of wire cutters. So if you're able to get 2 of your POWs in the kitchen, you can then claim a wire cutter from the equipment card. And you'll need wire cutters to be able to get through the outer barrier that goes all the way around the camp here. There's well, it doesn't go all the way around, but most of it has a wire barrier around it that you're going to have to cut through that to get outside of the castle to one of your escape points that are positioned all around the board, and they are all completely outside of the castle. So to get to those, you'll need various things. This side has more of a wall, so you're going to need more ropes to be able to kind of climb down and make those jumps. That is if you go through the tunnel system, which is very cool. We'll talk about that here in a second. Where more of this side is all the wire fencing, so you're going to need those wire cutters to be able to get through out to your various escape zones. That's how some of the equipments are going to work. Now, when you do try to escape, that's where these personal escape kits really come in to play, is you will need one of these to actually have one of your POWs escape. Now, there is a rule where you can have 2 POWs escape on one escape kit, but they have to literally be escaping at the same time during the same turn. So if you do have 2 POWs that are very, very close, right next to an escape point, let's say this one right up here, and you roll your dice and you have enough movement to split amongst them to have them both escape, they can both use one escape kit. Because you can win the game by having 2 of your POWs escape. So let's say I was Britain, which I have here set up on the board that is red, and I have the Americans that are blue. If I was to get 2 of my POWs to escape, and they don't have to escape through the same escape point, I do if I want to use one escape kit, but if I escape through different escape points, I would need to have an escape kit for each POW. That would essentially allow me to win the game. That's how the escape officers, which are all the players, would win the game. So you may ask, Okay, well, how does the security officer win the game? Because that's really how this game is set up. One player plays the security officer, which is all of these black pieces right here. And the other players play the various different nationalities that are available, which are the Americans, which I have here the blue, the British, French, Dutch, and Polish. So how the player that's playing the security officer is going to win is really by the round tracker that you'll see going all the way around the board here. So the rules suggest that you start on 50 rounds, but you can move that down for more experienced players, which means the least amount of rounds that there are, the tougher it's going to be for the players to win. You'll also notice that this does go, because 50 is marked right here, and you can see that we do have quite a few more. It goes all the way up to 70. So you could extend that game all the way up to 70 for maybe less experienced players. Let's say if you wanted to play with, maybe some younger kids, or you wanted to play with some players that were less experienced with, board games, whatever the example is, you could continue to move that round tracker up to give those players more of a chance to potentially win the game. At the end of every game round, you're going to move that round marker down by 1. So after all of the escape officers go, and then the security officer always goes last, you're going to move that round tracker down by 1. Now, once it gets all the way around into the eagle, which is right here, that's going to essentially end the game. But once it touches the eagle, the escape officers do get one more round to try to potentially win. But that would be the end of the game if they weren't able to do that, and the security officer player would win. Now, the opportunity cards are going to be gained by the escape officer players. The security card is going to be gained by the security officer player. And how that's going to work is every time it's your turn, you're going to roll 2 die. And when you roll these dice, if you ever get a result, and I did, so perfect example, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 on one die, and I got 1 on the other one. If you ever roll a result that is 5 or less, you get to pick, determining on what role you're playing, one of these cards. The only way that you're going to be able to pick up those cards is if you roll that 5 or less. And these cards are going to give you like abilities and benefits that can kind of twist and turn the gameplay as you're playing the game. So for example, we'll grab a couple here of these opportunities. This first one's called Hideaway. Avoid confiscation of equipment due to a search or an arrest. So if you're ever searched or arrested, as a player, you can throw that out and say, okay, I'm not going to lose my equipment card. I may still get arrested, but I'm not going to lose my equipment card. And we'll talk about why you lose equipment cards in certain types of arrests here in a little bit. This other one says bribe a sentry. Draw 1 equipment card of your choosing. So when it's your turn, you could play that card and draw an equipment card that you may need. Let's say you're right up against a wall and you need a rope, but you don't have a rope, but you have that card. When it's your turn, you can play it, you can grab the rope, and you can jump down or climb back up. So they are very powerful cards and will really get you out of a pinch. So it's very good every time you roll that 5 or below. And the same with the security officer. Here's one, for example, for the security officer. This one, and I'm not going to read all this, essentially allows the security officer to search various rooms. It allows the security officer to potentially deploy more troops, make arrests. There's a card that allows the security officer to cause all of the players to have to come back to the central area of the board, which is a real game breaker for the players, especially as they've used movement points to kind of move out throughout the board. To have to kind of come all back is a real pain. Now there is a rule where, you know what, go ahead, play your card that brings me back to the center part, but I'm not going to go back. I choose not to. And there is a rule for that where the security officer will go ahead and roll 2 dice, and anybody within the range of what those 2 die come up with, those POWs will immediately be searched. They will have to go to solitary, and they will lose an item. So that's an interesting rule as well. So there is some decision points on some of the cards that are played. The last kind of card we have here is the do or die card, and only is used in the classic rule set that's included in the rule book. And then we're going to see our escape or our access point tokens that we have here. So there are various different colors that would align with each one of the nationalities. I like to, since I'm kind of using for the example here to keep everything straight, I put one of those in front of each one of my little columns here so I can see, oh, these are the British cards, these are the American cards. So what you're going to do with these is as you make escape attempts, you're going to set these on the board right where you would make that escape attempt. So let's say down here in the front, I was able to tunnel through, and we'll go over the rules of how that works. I was able to cut right through this wire fence here. I would set that little token down right there to indicate that I had tried to make an escape attempt through this area. Now, let's say I was a guard and I ended up being close to that area. The only way that guards can move and make drops or move through fences is due to if a nationality tried to escape, and it's almost like they're on patrol and oh, hang on a second, there's a hole in this fence. At that point, they can move through that fence and go after that POW based on their movement points. They got to have enough movement points to be able to do it. But that's the only way they can get through. Now, after they go through, they do have the option of removing that escape point as well. And what that does is that stops any more guards from being able to go through. It also stops any more POWs from being able to go through, unless they go ahead and use another wire cutter. Let's say, because of our instance of wire cutting through this fence, they'd have to use another wire cutter to set down another one of those escape points there, versus just being able to go ahead and move through. Now, if a POW ever wants to turn around, so let's say they've already gone through and they're out. So we'll grab an example here. Let's say an American made it through, and that actually would be a blue token in that instance, because you can't use, Americans can't go on the British escape points and British can't go on the Americans for our example here of using the British and the American POWs. They have to use their own nationalities escape routes. So let's say that an American POW was right here and they wanted to go back through for one reason or the other. Like they figured out, I don't know, what I just did wasn't the best strategy. I actually need to get to this escape point versus the one I was going to, because maybe some guards were out there for one reason or the other, and it kind of cut off our route. So they may decide to actually go back through. Now, if you do that, you can go back through, but you do, again, let's say if you're going up, you have to use another rope to climb back up. You do have to use another set of wire cutters to cut through the fence. And that's kind of a rule that offsets the point of just going in and coming back for free. If you want to come back, it's going to cost you something to kind of turn around and come back. And I think what that does is it really adds that feeling of, the extra danger. It's like you've already gone through, you've already made it, but now you figured out things didn't work out and you had to return back the other way. It's going to cost you a little something versus just more people continuing to go through that access point. Back to our example of movement, we rolled our 5. We were able to draw an opportunity card. Let's say we were playing one of the escape officers. We would draw our opportunity card, and then that's how much we would be able to move. We'd be able to move 5. So you add the dice together, that's your movement points for the turn. Now, that 5 can be spread amongst your POWs that are not in solitary, and we'll talk about that here in a second. We've got an American in solitary here, and we have quite a few POWs, one British and a few American in solitary right over here. Anybody that's not in solitary, you can move, and you can spread those points amongst them. So you may just grab one of your POWs and say, well, I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or you may say, well, I want to take this guy and go 1, 2, 3, and I want this guy to go 1, 2. So you can choose to spread those points however you want. And I really like that you don't have to just allocate all of your movement to one POW, because that gives you a lot of option when it's your turn and allows you to start to spread out your POWs quickly, where the security officer is going to have to respond to that. And in the same respect, because the security officer obviously can spread their points of movement the same way. Now, there's a couple different things that the security officer can do with those movement points. Whenever it's the security officer's turn, you'll notice we've got the barracks right down here. And for 1 movement point, so let's say that we were the security officer, and let's say our same example, we had, let's say 5. We could use one of those 5 to move a guard out of the barracks and deploy that guard on any one of the guard posts. Now on the board, there's quite a few different areas, and there's a legend in the rulebook that will show you what each one of these circles in different colors mean. But the solid black circles that are on the board here, those are guard posts. And it will allow you to deploy the guard from the barrack to any one of the guard posts. And you would choose which one you would want. And you would deploy them based on where the POWs were spread out. You may need a little more support on the outer courtyard. You may need some support in the inner courtyard for one reason or the other. So you can deploy those guards in any way that makes sense based on what's currently going on. Now, there's a couple cool things that go on when you actually play the game when you're doing certain types of movement. So if a guard and a POW ever run into one another, which means you would have enough movements that you would essentially need to move into one of their spaces. Now they are kind of free within this white area here, this starting kind of central zone. But let's say that they were, let's say that we had a British POW right here, and for one reason or the other, this guard rolled and had enough movement points to get to that spot. What would happen is that guard would arrest that POW. Now, there's a couple different things that's going to happen based on where the POW is arrested. If a POW is arrested anywhere in this kind of central gray, these rooms, this what they call the inner courtyard, that POW is going to go to a inner courtyard solitary area. Unless those areas are filled, then they will overflow to the outer solitary areas and vice versa. They're going to go to solitary, but they're not going to lose any equipment because they're inside this inner courtyard. It's almost like, hey, you're not too much out of line, but get over here and get in the cell here for a day. Now, if a POW is ever arrested in the outer courtyard or outside the castle, they're going to go to the outer courtyard solitary area, and they're also going to lose 1 equipment card, which could be devastational to that particular security officer that's controlling that team of POWs, because they may need all the equipment cards they have, or they may only have equipment cards that they really need to make their next move. And again, to gain new equipment cards, you've got to get either 2 POWs to a room that has the equipment card that you need, or you need to get 1 POW to a room that has the equipment card you need, and another POW to another room that has equipment card that you need. So it is very advantageous for the security officer player to try to arrest as many POWs as possible when they're outside that inner circle. And there you can do quite a bit of crowd control as well if you're arresting them while they're inside the circle, because that's going to throw them into solitary as well. Now, how do you get out of solitary, right? Because once you're there, you're kind of stuck. When it is the escape officer's turn, so any of the other players' turn, and they roll, if they ever roll doubles, there's a couple different things that's going to happen. And I did it again. So I just rolled 2 5s. So again, a perfect example. Man, the demo gods are with me today. So we've got 2 5s, which gives us 10 movement points. If you ever roll doubles and you have a POW that's in solitary, you can immediately grab one of your POWs and pull them out of solitary. So let's say I was the American player. I rolled my 2 5s. That's my doubles. And I've got an American in this inner solitary. I've got quite a few in the outer wall solitary. I'm going to pull them out. What you're going to do is you're going to look for this. There's a little white arrow that's right next to the solitary. And you're going to put your POW right in the circle that's closest to that area that you can. So there's no one else around here blocking any of these spaces. So I'm going to put my POW right there. And now what you're going to do anytime you roll doubles, and this goes for the security officer as well, you're going to re-roll your dice and add to that whatever you had. So remember, we have 2 5s, so we have 10 movement points. We're going to re-roll. We got a 5 and a 2, which means we've got 7. So we now have 17 points of movement for that turn, which is huge. That's one of the gameplay mechanics that I really like, because it can give a huge turn to a player that really can change the wave of what's going on in that particular round. You may be way off from something that you're trying to get to, and now you have 17 points to be able to get to it. And again, you may use 17 points with one little pawn for one reason or the other, like you just want to get halfway across the board, or you may split those 17 points up amongst various pawns. And more than likely, having 17 points, you'd probably split those up amongst a couple pawns. That would be a very, very good time in the game. So let's go straight to our tunnel example. If you want to use a tunnel, and you'll find those in a couple different areas on the board, and specifically areas that historically the POWs used to tunnel. So, we have the famous canteen, the church, the tunnel that they had in the church that they designed, which was very sophisticated. So let's talk about our canteen tunnel here. To be able to use a tunnel, and there's a spot that indicates on the board where you enter the tunnel, and a spot that indicates on the board where you exit the tunnel. And that tunnel will allow you to actually burrow and get all the way outside of the castle and be in this outer courtyard area. Now, there are some tunnels, much like the one that's over here, that actually will take you all the way to the outer wall, which is almost all the way to outside of the castle. You will be required to have 2 ropes to make this drop. So this is, this route right here is a pretty dangerous route to be able to take. But it has high reward because it is probably the shortest distance on the board to get to a tunnel, go through, drop down, and then make a short run to an exit point, which is right here. So high risk, but high reward on this path versus some of the other ones that you'll see on the board. But to be able to open up that tunnel and start to dig and tunnel, you have to have 2 of your pawns in that same area that are going to enter that tunnel, and you also have to have a card that allows you to open the tunnel. So in having 17 movement points, let's say that you had a couple up here, that would be plenty enough to get them positioned into this area, and then play your tunnel card and then get them actually in that tunnel. So you got to have 2 to open a tunnel. You don't have 2 to come out of a tunnel. But if you ever end a turn and you don't have at least 2 of your pawns in a tunnel, the tunnel does collapse. And any pawns that would be left in a tunnel when it collapsed, they would immediately go to solitary. Now, you may do something where you have 2 in a tunnel, and for some reason you only have enough movement points to get 1 of them out. You may sacrifice one of your POWs and leave them in to get 1 of your POWs out. Now, at that point, again, the tunnel is going to collapse. You are going to lose that POW, and that POW is going to go into solitary confinement, and the tunnel is going to close. So if you ever want to use that tunnel again, you're going to need to get, once again, a card that opens the tunnel and 2 of your POWs there to open that tunnel up. So it's a trade-off, right? Do you leave a man behind to get 1 of your pawns out to make a run for one of the escape points? Or do you always leave 2 in to keep that tunnel open? I've found that most of the time, and I've played this through a few times, you're going to want to keep that tunnel open as long as you possibly can versus sacrificing. The only time that I would see, sacrifice a tunnel and jump someone out, leave somebody potentially behind, is when you have somehow successfully got a lot of the guards out of this area away from you, and there aren't too many that are already deployed to the barracks. Because remember, from the barracks, they can always move right to guard posts. So if you ever find yourself in that position where the security officer has made the mistake of not keeping that outer wall secure, that may be an instance and a strategy where you go ahead and collapse the tunnel and you try to make a mad dash, knowing that you have either a rope and or a wire cutter to get through the fence or the wall. Another good mechanic is at any point in time, a POW can choose to actually purposefully run into a guard. And what that forces is it forces the guard to arrest the POW. So it's almost like the POW is coming up to the guard and like pushing the guard or, causing some trouble. You would think, why would you ever want to do that? Like, why would you want to force an arrest, have one of your POWs now stuck in solitary, and you can't use them unless you roll doubles to be able to get them out? Why would you want to do that? Well, You may want to do that because there may be a guard positioned somewhere that's too close to some of your other POWs or is trying to close in on POWs to arrest them, and you might have POWs working on a tunnel. So think about this. You got two POWs in an area, let's say the chapel, and they're in a tunnel, right? And you're trying to get more POWs that tunnel to get people out. Well, what you may start to do is purposefully use POWs that you may have positioned in that area. As those security guards move in, move your POW into that security guard, because what happens is you immediately get arrested and put it in solitary confinement, but that security guard gets taken off the board, and after a security guard makes an arrest, they go to the commander's office. So they're off the board and they're out of the way, and you can continue upon the next turn trying to make more advances in that tunnel and get more people out. So that's really the strategy and the purpose of a POW running into an officer and getting them out of the way. So at the end of a security officer's turn, all of the guards they have in the commander's office are going to automatically come out and they're going to go in the barracks. And they're essentially queued up. That's just a way to sort of, queue them up for the next round, where you can use your movement points to redeploy those guards from the barracks to the various guard points. So it's kind of a mechanic that just allows those guards to cycle on and off the board, giving the POWs those opportunities and those gateways to be able to make some advancement to escape. That's really how the board sort of balances itself between the guards and the POWs. Now, two more things that I'll mention here with mechanics on the board. So POWs as well as guards can walk over a tunnel, but they can't ever end their movement on a tunnel. And that's just because you'd have to end your movement technically on top of another pawn that would have, is essentially under the ground digging through that tunnel. So you can move over a tunnel, walk over a tunnel. You just can't end your movement on any spaces that would be indicated that they're a tunnel. And those are clearly indicated with little brown marks on the board. Let's to another spot we have here, which is these kind of orangey yellow type colored triangular areas that you'll see across the board. There's one here as well. And those are the areas where covered with spotlights, right? So, POWs can't end their movement within those areas. They can move past them, but they can't end their movement in one of those areas. So you're going to want to roll enough movement points that's going to allow you to move all the way through one of those areas and to a circle that's not, colored orange, yellow. So just another way on the board to kind of block the POWs from moving very quickly through certain areas. For example, if we look at this area right here, there's actually a little lock here. So when a POW gets to that spot, if they want to move past that, they're going to have to cash in one of their keys to be able to move past that. And then they're going to have enough movement points to move through this area. So you'd have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you'd have to have 7 movement points to be able to move successfully past this area. And let's say it was a big roll, and like our example of having 17. Let's say we had 17 and it was this POW's turn. They cashed in their key for their lock, and then we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here's another spot. This spot indicates you have to have a guard pass. Let's say they had a guard pass. They cashed that in. Now we're labeled to go 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. At this point, this POW literally is making a mad dash straight out the front door and across one of the bridges to one of these escape points over here. So you're going to find this guard on his next turn is going to start to make a mad dash, probably using all of his movement points to catch this POW. Which what that means for the other players is, as that security officer is using those movement points, because this guy's potentially possible to escape. As they're using those movement points to catch that POW, that opens up the other players because they're not using movement points to move around their other guards. So that's where it comes into the balance for that security officer to say, what do I do? Right? Do I use my movement points to try to catch this POW? Well, how many POWs have escaped so far? None. Well, if I didn't catch that guy, that'd only be 1, so the game's still not over. Remember, we got to have 2 escaped for 1 nationality to win the game. So maybe I won't worry about that POW. I'll just let him go, right? Congratulations, you escaped. Or maybe I'll just start splitting. So you know what? I'll give this guy 3. Let's say I rolled 6. Well, I'll use 3 here, and I'll go off and I'll use 3 somewhere else. And maybe that person continues to move forward, but I'll just keep kind of pecking away. And at some point, maybe I'll get a really, really big roll, and I'll be able to catch up and nail that POW, and at the same time continue to somewhat control what's going on through the rest of the board. So that's what I love about the choices that you get when it's your turn and you're playing the game out. And obviously, there's going to be more and more for the security officer that they're going to have to manage as there are more and more escape officers in the game, or more and more nationalities that are trying to control. Now, equipment cards can be traded amongst the players if they want to barter amongst themselves. But amongst the nationalities, which is a pretty cool mechanic. When it is your turn, you can trade equipment cards. You cannot trade opportunity cards. That covers the basic mechanics and the rules in the game. What we'll do now is we'll play out one quick round just to give you a feel for what this would be. And let's say we just leave everything exactly like we have it right here that we've been using for our example, and we'll go ahead and start. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start with the British player, and we'll say the American player is next, and then we'll have the security officer's turn, which is always the last turn in a game round. Let's go ahead and say, hypothetically, we are on round 34. So we'll go ahead and just put our token right there. So the British nationality is up. We'll go ahead and roll our dice here. That one fell off the table. Not fair, so we'll put it back on. And we rolled a 5. Now remember, anything that's 5 and less, we get an opportunity card. So the British just gain an opportunity card. And we got Hideaway. Avoid confiscation of equipment due to a search or an arrest. So we will grab that and we'll stick it right down here with our cards and see if we have anything that can help us on this turn. I don't think that we do. So we're going to go and we're going to look at our red pawns here, which is British. We didn't roll any doubles, so we can't take anybody out of solitary. We do have a guy here that's about ready to jump down. He's on a 30 spot, so he can jump down here. But do I have any ropes? No, I don't. But you know what? I want to get him down and into this area. So I'm actually going to use a card, and I'm going to use this Bribe a Sentry card, which is draw one equipment card of your choice. So I'm going to cash that in, and I'm going to draw one equipment card of my choice. I'm going to take that rope. And I'm going to immediately use that rope, give that right back, and be able to jump down that 30 feet and land right on that spot. So that would cause me to use one of my 5 movement points, and I'm going to use I'm going to actually use one. I'm going to put him right there at the bottom of that at that drop he climbed down. Now I have 4 more movement points, and the only people that I can allocate that to are these POWs, because I don't want to move him anywhere else. And these 3 are in solitary confinement. So I got a couple guys here that are in the tunnel, let's say. So I'm going to move this guy closer to the tunnel. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be my last movement point, and now my turn would be over for the British. I'm now going to go to the American player, and I'm going to roll the dice. I now have 8 movement points. So again, I got this guy making his mad dash, just literally running full speed out the front door. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for him to kind of get him a decent amount away, giving myself 3 more points of movement. And, you know, I can only move this guy, or this guy, or this guy. Let's check and see if I have any wire cutters, because I'm pretty close to this outward fence here. I don't. I only have a key. Do I have anything to be able to get me a wire cutter? I don't. I have something to exchange to get a German pass, and I do have a personal escape kit, but I have no wire cutters. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a 1 to get him right up against that fence. So when I'm ready with my wire cutters, I'm ready to go. And I have 2 more movement points. And I'm going to start moving this guy here towards the canteen to maybe open that tunnel up again. So we'll just say 1, 2. So that's what I'm going to do for the Americans, and now it's time for the security guard to take his turn. Here we go, the security guard. And we got 4 and a 3, which is 7, so I have 7 points of movement. Now I've got 3 guards in the barracks, so I'm going to use a couple movement points to get guards out of the barracks and redeployed on the board. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a guard down here kind of covering this. And again, I can only deploy on guard posts, which are the solid black circles. So I got this guy down here, and there's really nobody around this area, so I'm going to use one to deploy a guard right there. I'm going to use one to deploy a guard right here on this outer post, taking this guy's place because he's chasing this POW. And that's all I'm going to do. So of my 7, I used 2, so I have 5 left. I'm now going to use this guard to start moving into this area to potentially cut off this POW right here. So you know what? I'm actually gonna split it amongst these guys to kind of start moving towards these various areas. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, and I'm gonna move this guy 1, 2, 3. So I'm starting to move this guard towards this chapel area where we got some tunnel action going on, and I'm gonna move this guard towards the canteen to potentially try to cut off this POW because I'm thinking, you know what? He's probably gonna try to get here, and then he's gonna probably try to get another POW here. Now this guy can't come back through this tunnel because again this tunnel has been collapsed, so he's stuck out there. But as I pull more POWs out of solitary, and the next time I roll doubles on the American's turn, I probably would start to move these guys out of solitary and start probably making that trek back to be able to open up that tunnel, because the tunnels can be very, very powerful if you can open them up and you can keep them working. And that really is a fun strategy with this, because you'll find that you get that tunnel open, you get it working, and then you just start crowding POWs around the front of that entrance and just running them into those guards purposefully to get them out of the way. Because again, a guard can deploy on these guard coasts, but they're always going to have to, make that track back. So that's kind of a fun strategy to see play out, where players will crowd POWs around those entrances of those tunnels to cause some trouble, and keep the guards occupied, where they continue to dig their tunnel and continue to get POWs out. So lots of fun mechanics as this game plays out. Now in this situation, we didn't have any POWs that were arrested in that round. Anytime a guard makes an arrest, they're going to immediately go to that commander's office. And at the end of my turn, which it is now the end of the security officer's turn, and I don't want to use this card because it doesn't benefit me in any way, this allows me to search the guardhouse, which is right here, and there's nobody in the guardhouse, so there's really no reason to search it. What I would then do is I would move all the pawns that I had on the commander's office over to the barracks, but in this situation we don't have any there. So there's nothing else that we would do other than we would go up here and we would move our round counter down 1 from 34 to 33, being 1 closer to the end of the game. And that would be a game round. I love this game. It gives you so much replayability. Every game is different. And remember, this is based on Pat Reid's experience. So you're playing, you can kind of put yourself in that position of, man, these guys were really in the canteen. They were really in the church, digging these tunnels and trying to escape, and always having to fight off the never-ending waves of guards coming by and snooping and finding out what they were doing and busting them or arresting them and taking and confiscating items that they may have had, that who knows how hard they worked to attain those items or create or make those items. So it just, as you play this game out, it gives you that nostalgia and it gives you that feel of that historical event that really happened. So again, read that history pamphlet, that book that comes with the game. Read the extra components that come that add that extra flavor to the game. It's really going to give you that bump, I think, and that theme as you play it out that's going to make a big difference as you play it. And it's going to make you want to keep coming back to the table time and time again, because I found that. Let's talk about the contest. The contest details will be in the description below. But what we're going to do is we're going to run a contest on this for a free copy of this game. Now, this game retails for $65 in the US. You can win this game being located anywhere on the planet. So don't think it's just, locked down to the US or Canada or or anywhere close to me, you can win this anywhere across the world. You can get a copy of this game for free if you win the contest, and it will ship directly from Osprey Games. So how do you win the contest? You need to make a comment in the comments below. Also need to be a subscriber of the channel. You need to make a comment in the comments below saying why you want to win a copy of this game. And that might be for a lot of different reasons. It might just be you're a board gamer and you like the World War II themed games. You're a tabletop war gamer. The theme appeals to you. It might be for a personal reason. It's completely up to you. But Osprey Games will select their favorite best comment from the comments, and we're going to run this one for 3 weeks. So we're going to run this one for a little bit longer than what we've done on other contests on the channel. Generally, we do 2-week contests. I'm going to do a 3-week one on this because it's a brand new game, and it doesn't even come out until October the 18th. I do want to give time for the game to hit the market, a little bit saturated on BoardGameGeek.com. Quite a few people start to kind of see this game, give people time to watch the review, to be able to make their post. So whoever's got the best comment after the 3-week period, and that will start today, the day this video goes up, so you can check the comments for the published date of this video. I'll put that in the comments below as well to indicate exactly what date the contest will end. So, good luck to you guys. This is now the 3rd giveaway contest the channel has done. And it's something that I'm gonna keep going with. I think this is something that's great for you guys, the subscribers, the channel, to be able to have a grab of a free game as we do these games. So as we move forward, doing more reviews and more games, I'm gonna try to do as many of these giveaways and these contests as possible, because that's what it's all about, right? You guys are a great community. We're a great team, and I like to give away these board games and reward you guys for making great comments, watching the videos, and being engaged. So that's what this channel is about, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So this has been Escape from Colditz by Osprey Games. Again, guys, excellent job. Once again, a solid execution, a solid implementation of a great game. Fantastic components, awesome gameplay, and great packaging. So hit that like, click the subscribe below to join the team. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time.